In a forgotten corner of the world, where the sea kissed the cliffs with a lover as fervor, and the moon hung low enough to whisper secrets, there was a coastal village called Tidehaven. Its cobblestone streets wound like veins through salt-worn houses, and its people lived by the rhythm of the waves, steady, eternal, unyielding. But Tidehaven was no ordinary place. It was said that the tides themselves were woven by an ancient soul, a figure known only as the Weaver, who lived in a cave at the edge of the cliffs where the ocean roared loudest. The Weaver was a myth to some, a guardian to others. No one could agree on whether she was human, spirit, or something in between. Her cave was hidden by a curtain of sea mist, visible only when the moon was full and the tides were at their highest. The villagers left offerings of shells, driftwood, and woven nets at the cliff's edge, believing she mended the balance of the world, keeping the storms at bay, the fish plentiful, and the hearts of Tidehaven's people steady. But in recent years, the tides had grown restless. Storms battered the village without warning, and the fish vanished, leaving nets empty and bellies hollow. Whispers spread that the Weaver was fading, or worse, that she had abandoned them. Among the villagers was a woman named Lyra, a seamstress whose hands were as skilled with needle and thread as her heart was heavy with grief. Lyra had once been the light of Tidehaven, her laughter as constant as the waves. But 2 years ago, a storm had claimed her husband, Elias, a fisherman whose boat never returned. Since then, Lyra's world had narrowed to her small shop, where she stitched sails and mended clothes, her fingers moving mechanically while her spirit drifted like a ghost ship. Sleep eluded her, her nights haunted by the sound of crashing waves and the ache of loss. She no longer believed in peace, only in enduring. One evening, as a blood-red sunset bled into the horizon, Lyra overheard the elders at the tavern. "The Weaver's failing," one said, voice low. "The tides are unraveling. If we don't find her, Tidehaven will drown." Lyra's heart stirred, not with hope but with a restless need. If the Weaver was real, perhaps she could answer why the sea had taken Elias. Perhaps she could teach Lyra how to mend the broken pieces of her soul. That night, under a full moon, Lyra set out for the cliffs. She carried no offerings, only a shawl and a stubborn will. The path was treacherous, slick with salt and seaweed, but she pressed on until she reached the cliff's edge, where the mist parted like a curtain. There, carved into the rock, was the mouth of a cave, its entrance glowing faintly with a light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Inside, the cave was vast, its walls glittering with embedded shells and quartz that caught the light of a single lantern hanging from the ceiling. At its center sat an old woman, her hair white as sea foam, her hands moving over a strange loom. Instead of thread, she wove strands of water glimmering, liquid threads that flowed from the cave's walls and shimmered with colors no mortal could name. She looked up as Lyra entered, her eyes deep as the ocean itself. "You're bold to come here," the Weaver said, her voice like the tide, gentle but unyielding. "What do you seek?" Lyra's throat tightened. "I want to know why the sea took my husband. Why the tides are breaking. Why I can't find peace." The Weaver's hands paused, the liquid threads trembling. "The sea doesn't take without reason, child, but its reasons are its own. As for the tides, they're unraveling because the world's heart is heavy too many souls like yours, carrying grief they won't release. And peace, that's not something I can give you. It's something you must weave for yourself." Lyra's anger flared. "Weave? I'm a seamstress, not a mystic. I stitch cloth, not miracles." The Weaver smiled, unperturbed. "Cloth, water, dreams, it's all the same. Everything is a thread, waiting to be shaped. Come, sit. I'll show you." Reluctantly, Lyra sat beside the loom. The Weaver guided her hands to the liquid threads, which felt cool and alive, like holding a river. "Each thread is a moment," the Weaver said. "A joy, a sorrow, a hope, a fear. To weave a tide, you choose which threads to keep and which to let go. Too many sorrows and the tide grows wild. Too few, and it grows weak. Balance is the key. Lyra's fingers trembled as she touched the threads. She saw flashes of her life, Elias's smile, the warmth of his hand, the storm that stole him. The weaver's voice was soft. You've been holding on to the storm, Lyra. It's become your whole tapestry. Let it be one thread, not the whole weave. How? Lyra whispered, tears falling. How do I let go? By choosing other threads, the weaver said. Find the moments that still hold light. Weave them in. Lyra closed her eyes, searching her memories. She saw Elias teaching her to dance on the beach, their laughter mingling with the waves. She saw the mornings they'd watched the sunrise, his arm around her shoulders. She saw the village children who came to her shop, their eyes wide as she sewed tiny stars onto their clothes. Her hands moved, tentative at first, then steadier, weaving these moments into the tide. The liquid threads glowed brighter, the cave filling with a soft hum. For weeks, Lyra returned to the cave each night, learning to weave. The weaver taught her to balance joy with sorrow, hope with fear. Some nights, Lyra wove threads of her own laughter, others, threads of her tears. Slowly, the tides around Tidehaven calmed. The storms grew less frequent, and fish returned to the nets. The villagers noticed the change, their whispers turning to wonder, though none knew Lyra's role. One night, as Lyra wove a thread of the quiet pride she felt in her work, the weaver spoke. You've learned well. Your tide is strong now, balanced. But there's one last thread you must weave. Lyra knew what she meant. The grief for Elias still lingered, a heavy thread she tucked away but never released. She hesitated, then reached for it, her hands shaking. As she wove it into the tide, she saw not just the loss, but the love that had come before it. The thread shimmered, blending with the others, not dominating but harmonizing. For the first time in years, Lyra felt a quiet stillness settle in her chest, a peace she thought was lost forever. The weaver nodded, her eyes gleaming. You've woven your tide, Lyra, now it will carry you as it carries all things. Lyra returned to Tidehaven, her heart lighter. She still sewed sails and mended clothes, but now she did so with a quiet joy, her hands steady and sure. The villagers noticed the change in her, though they never knew she'd become a weaver of tides, working alongside the ancient guardian to keep their world in balance. Years passed, and the weaver's cave grew harder to find, the mist thicker, the path more treacherous. Some said she'd moved on, her work done. But Lyra knew better. She could feel the weaver's presence in the rhythm of the tides, in the way the sea sang softly at night. And in her shop, Lyra kept a small loom of her own, not of water but of thread, where she wove tapestries of her life's moments, joys, sorrows, and the peace she'd learned to hold close. As you drift toward sleep, imagine the tides of Tidehaven, flowing gently under the moon's watchful gaze. Picture your own threads, your joys, your sorrows, your hopes woven into a tapestry that is yours alone. Let the rhythm of the waves remind you that peace is not a destination, but a balance, a weave of moments that glows within you. Rest now, knowing your tide is steady, carrying you softly into the night.